couldn't wait. Hey, it's Romania Black. No, I couldn't wait. Sorry. I watched episode 5 a few days ago and I was like, I really need to see episode 6. So here we are. Man, episode 5 last week was just a really fun time, wasn't it? It was just a barrel of fun. Just the most fun, the friendliest, family-friendly episode. No! That episode was disturbing! It started out so cute. It was like the biggest tonal whiplash because you started out with Noe and he was just like, you know, so cute and chibified, and then as the episode goes on, suddenly Louis is a curse bearer, and then Louis is like decapitating another vampire Mina, and then he goes crazy, and then his grandpa shows up and murders him, and it's like, what? Oh my god. And then we cut back to Charlatan trying to take over Noe, and luckily Vanitas comes in right at the last minute and zaps it out and saves him, and I was like, oh my god. But I was floored with the last episode because of just how crazy it was, right? Just so enamored. Like I said last episode, I did not expect going into this series to have as many questions, to be sucked into it. And, you know, because the first episode was fine. Like, I was like, oh, vampires, cool. And there's like this sci-fi element to it. That's nice. And then I didn't expect to have all this stuff to discuss. But I should have known, because all of you have said for months, you've been like, oh, you need to watch Case Study of Vanitas. You'll have lots to talk about. And I was like, okay. And here we are. Oh my gosh. And the crazy thing about it is that I feel like I can't speak too much on the Discord about it because there's all this mystery and spoilers and everything. So, oh, y'all. It's just, what a series. So we're at episode 6. And when we last left off, Vanitas had just saved Noe. So we didn't really get a resolution to the whole thing with Charlatan. Charlatan and Noe and Vanitas are right there. But Vanitas seemed to have gotten Noe away from Charlatan. So there's something about Vanitas' power that lets him attack Charlatan, which is good to know. He didn't have to use the book to do it. It was like literally his hand. I'm wondering if it's the mark of the blue moon that lets him do that. But he's also had his blood sucked by Jean, so is Noe going to comment about that? What are we going to do about that? So I don't know, but last episode was absolute madness, and I'm not ready for that stuff. The grandpa still freaks me out so much. I'm not ready for that, any more of that business. But this episode also, this series as a whole, has showcased how the animation style, like, it can be super cute and like you just want to fangirl and see how kawaii it is. And then in a heartbeat, it switches to horrific and grisly and grotesque, and you're like, what? And I love series that do that, like when they play around with what they can get away with in terms of artistic style. It reminds me a lot of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. If you've ever seen Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, it's fantastic. It was like one of the first series I looked at on this channel. But its art style can be very cutesy and beautiful and whimsical, and then in a second turn into grotesque and horrifying, and you're like, okay then. But yeah, I'm really excited, y'all. I have no clue what to expect, but I couldn't wait. I was like, the episode 5 is supposed to come out on Patreon tomorrow, but I'm like, I've got to be gone this weekend for a trip, so I might as well just watch it, right? That's the excuse that I'm using. But I'm so excited to get into this episode, y'all, and see what we get. So we are going to start the Case Study of Vanitas, episode 6, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. Well, I actually like this turn of events. There is a part of me when I get attached to a couple of characters and I want to ship them together. There's a part of me that gets kind of like, I get jealous on their behalf. And so whenever like a character and another character are like in a situation where I'm like, oh, I want to ship them together, and then angst and stuff happens that tears them apart, I instantly want to be like, no, what if we could fix the situation? And I want to almost like protect them as a ship. And so in the last couple of episodes, I was getting so flustered because I was like, no, Vanitas, don't go with Jean. Or like, no, Noe, don't go with Dami. But I don't think that's the case. I feel like Dami and Noe are like brother, sister, besties. Like he loves her as a sister. He loves her as a friend. But I don't get any like sexual attraction from Noe to Dami. Now, Dami may have some attraction to Noe, but I don't think it's mutual. And then with Jean, maybe Jean does love Vanitas. Maybe Vanitas, I feel like Vanitas is lying though when he says he loves Jean. I feel like that attraction is just like him saying, well, if I can't have Noe, then I guess I'll just go for you because you're right here. So I don't know. Does Jean like Noe or Jean like Vanitas? I don't know. I'm not exactly certain. So I don't know what to make of that. But what I do like is that by the end of this, I like that they're establishing that we are going to work together in like this Frodo-Sam relationship where I'm going to follow you and I'm going to work with you and protect you because I want to know for myself. I like that Noe is not instantly infatuated with Vanitas, but he says he doesn't like Vanitas. He's like, I don't like you. But I think a lot of that is because he doesn't know Vanitas and he doesn't understand him. And he's like, I don't get how you work. I don't like how you do things, but I want to learn about you and I want to know. So what I'm afraid of is that they hint at in this episode, they give us a reminder that there's not a happy ending to this series. And I know the manga goes on beyond this anime. So maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe it's a fake ending. I don't know. I don't want to know. Don't spoil me. But I know the manga keeps going. So obviously maybe this isn't the end. And maybe the anime just gives it an ending and then the manga keeps going. And that's why y'all want me to read the manga. Don't answer that question. I don't want to be spoiled. When we get to the ending, then we can talk about it. But it makes me so sad because I don't like sad endings when there are characters like this. I'm like, no, I want Vanitas and Noe to be together. And so I don't know how, because at the end of this, he talks about regrets and that he couldn't reach out and grab his hand. So I want it to be like, okay, Moriarty the Patriot spoilers for like 30 seconds. So just, I'm going to wave my hand in the air. When I'm done waving my hand in the air, the Moriarty spoilers are done. You know, at the end of Moriarty the Patriot, where they think that William Moriarty is dead and Sherlock's like, oh no. And then at the very end, they meet up back in the cabin and they're like, so you're still alive? I'm hoping that it's one of those scenarios where Noe thinks that Vanitas is dead. And then at the very end, Vanitas shows up and he's like, gotcha. Or like something like that. And then they like ride off into the sunset together. I love that. But end of Moriarty spoilers. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And I'm going to be really freaking sad. So I don't know, but I don't want spoilers, so that's why I'm like, please don't spoil, no hints, no clues, don't confirm or deconfirm the theories. Let me think about this and fret over it for the next 22 episodes or 18 episodes or whatever we have left. But yeah, so we have a lot going on in this episode, so I wanted to bring Whiteboard Kun out just to kind of talk about it and to just kind of see what else we can discern from it. The teacher shows up a few times in this. He doesn't look quite as creepy as he does before, but he tells Noe to never let anyone take your true name. Never let anyone do that because then you will become a curse bearer. It is the formula that gives shape to who you are. The fact that he has the broken clock fascinates me. The broken pocket watch. And he's like the queen's grandfather. He has the money to replace it. So there's a reason why he has the broken clock. I'm like, is he a curse bearer? Did he lose his true name and he's just hiding it really well? We don't know. But the idea about the true name, we find out that it is a formula, again, tying to the world of formulas, that gives shape to who you are. So yeah, we established right off the bat that the vampires are not human. They are from a totally different plane of reality, and they're from an entirely different world where formulas were created and made beings out of them. And the vampires were just offshoots from that big experiment that went wrong. And so he says, if your name is altered or taken away, it will corrupt the form that you've taken. And we've learned that eventually you can get to a point where you can't turn back. instead you turn into something from Full Metal Alchemist that's traumatizing. And I'm like, thank you, show. So if you are a curse bearer, and you lose that name, then eventually you will go beyond the point of salvation. And we'll talk about that word salvation. So eventually you'll change forms entirely and you can't change back. And Vanitas kind of says the girl gets to the point where she can't change back. What's kind of curious about all of this is that there's still a little bit of an air that I feel like Vanitas feels maybe a little bit guilty, because she was the first person he gave the rose to he was the first person he interacted with at the party, and she's the one that's foregone the most. So there is a part that makes you wonder if Vanitas is inadvertently responsible for the curse bearing getting to her, or if he plays a part in it and doesn't know about it or can't control it. There is something with that does lend to you thinking, okay, is Vanitas involved in this somehow, even if he doesn't want to be? So that's rather interesting. But yeah, the teacher talks to Noe, and he says that is to say, it is your life. It is everything about you. And then Charlatan nearly took his true name, and then Vanitas was like, nope, we're not having that happen. And he's like, Noe, what are you doing? Why are you letting this thing get so close to you? So we say it's from Charlatan. So you are from Charlatan. So Charlatan is a place, right? Either a place or they're from a being, right? So Charlatan is a place or a boss or origin point. But this creature, which seems to be a woman that's maybe corrupted, is not Charlatan itself. It's just like a minion of them. Okay. And then I like to know, he's like, there's blood around your neck. Are you hurt? Are you okay? And Vanitas is like, well, that's very sweet that you cared about me. That's very cute. But I don't kiss and tell. Like, I love the banter between the two of them, where they're so much fun to ship, because you have Noe, who's this cinnamon bun that has this big sense of duty and protection, and then you have Vanitas, who is like a feral rat that you're just like, stop. You would just want to shake him. He's too chaotic. And you know that the thing about it is that Noe has had tragic things happen to him in his past and in his backstory, as we saw in the last episode. But I have a feeling that Vanitas' backstory is very tragic. There is a lot that we don't know about him and that he's gone through. And it's like, this was just like skimming the surface. And he gets mad at Noe for assuming he knows about him. And he's like, no, that is not the case. So that's interesting, right? Very interesting. And so then this minion goes towards Luca to attack him, and that's when I like that Luca's like, oh my god, and then Jean protects him. Vanitas never looks truly surprised about any of this, and Jean is like, oh, I have to protect Luca, but she has the blood on her dress, but she's okay apparently. So did Vanitas heal Jean? Did he heal her with the book? Is she okay afterwards? I would assume that he did, but... And they're like, what is it you want? Why are you causing all of this? And Charlatan it just kind of like gets a little bit spooky. Because it sees all of those vampires there together. And it's like, oh my god, what do we do? All these different colored eyes. We have red, we have green, we have purple, we have blue. And Vanitas doesn't look too disturbed, but it says, enough, Nania. We've been here too long. Okay, so the beings there I said in the last episode that they were all Charlatan. They are all part of the Charlatan Parade, but they are not all the same creature. I thought it was the same creature split into 3 different ones fighting. No, they are different. And we find out Nania, and my dogs are like, play with me, please. Nania is part of the parade. Maybe a big faction of it, maybe like one of the upper echelon of it, but is not totally just the Charlatan itself. So, and I guess that's when it peeled back and revealed the woman underneath. I thought it was Louie in the last episode, but it's not. It's her. So I'm wondering if at this point, because Vanitas has said that once your name gets corrupted to a certain point and the flesh is corrupted, you're past the point of no return. I'm wondering if that's where Nania is, or Nania, where they've gotten past the point of no return and they've become this thing, and all it can do now is corrupt others. That seems to be the case. But we're learning more like each episode. And like its face when it's like, oh, how disappointing, is like so creepy. And then it makes that malnomon that's called dissonance. So not only can they be part of this parade, but Nania has a power, and the power itself is a malnomon, which is dissonance. Okay, there's like lots of layers to this, right? But the creature in the armor seems to be kind of how Jean protects Luca. It seems to be protecting Nania, and it called it by her first name. So there's something else there. Like, again, there's lots of layers to this, and we're just getting like from the start a little bit. But they are obsessed with Noe and want their true name. Okay. And then Jean takes off with Luca to try to find it, but they get away. So it is obsessed with Noe. There's a lot of different characters that find other characters fascinating in this series. Like Nania finds Noe fascinating. Noe finds Vanitas fascinating. Vanitas finds Noe fascinating. The teacher seems to find both of them fascinating. We finally meet Ruth Verne, and he finds them fascinating. So there's lots of characters intrigued by other characters, right? And then Dami finally finds him. And I do love this scene where I do love how Noe like gives her a big hug. Like he's just like, he's so happy to see her. And after that flashback with Louis dying, it's like he's just so happy that she's okay, because he doesn't want to lose her, right? And then she's like, get a hold of yourself. I like that she's not a mushy-gushy, lovey-dovey. Like, she has a crush on Noe, but she's not just like, oh, you're safe. She's like, hey, we got stuff to do. Let's do it. I like Dami's personality. And I like that she, like, rips her dress with the sword. She's like, let's go. And then Vanitas does, like, the Yuri on Ice, where he's like does the Yuri on Ice whistle. I was like, what? Again, Vanitas, our bisexual king, is just like, oh, okay. Like, hello. And I love that Dami's just like, I cannot stand you right now. The beastly orchestra. And see, that's the other thing. I wonder if the fact that it's called the beastly orchestra is what lends the girl to turn into like the beastly monster once she's corrupted. I wonder if different malnomon can cause vampires to turn into different creatures based on what their abilities are, right? That seems to maybe be the case. And so he's like, she's like, can you save these humans? And he's like, I'll see what I can do. Like, I like the Vanitas is not making promises. So I want to put Vanitas over here. Right? What we know about Vanitas. Okay. He doesn't make, and I'm going to put a caveat with this, doesn't make promises to specific vampires. Because Dami's like, can you save them? And he's already said, he's like, I will save the vampires, like, as a collective. And she's like, can you save these people? And he says, I'll see what I can do. He's like, I'm not making you promises that I can't keep, but I'll try. And she's like, then I'm going to protect you while you do that. I love that. I love that she offers to protect him because she knows it's for the greater good. And that's when Noe is like, okay, yes, the power that Vanitas has. I like that when Noe took off after Nania, Charlatan, he was like, what? He kind of got lost in himself in the moment. And he was like, what about Louis? Why are you doing this? And then it took him a second to snap back to reality and say, oh, yeah, Vanitas has this power. He can actually help us. Like, it's not, the situation is seemingly not as it was all those years ago when Noe was powerless to help Louis, right? It's not the same. And so he goes down there and helps and saves the one vampire. And then we find out that Luca and Jean lost them. Where'd they go? And so then these other vampires start showing up asking if he was the one that turned them into curse bearers. And they go after them. And Noe, he protects them and he says, Vanitas, I have to thank you. And he's like, what's with you? And he says, nothing. It's just, and he's clearly thanking him for rescuing him from Charlatan earlier. He's like, I just wanted to say that. And I like that Vanitas is like, what the hell? Vanitas is like, I can't get a read on you. So we'll put Noe over here, right? And so Noe's thing that gets kind of frustrating is he doesn't exactly say why he's thanking or apologizing. He expects Vanitas to know, and Vanitas is like, they have trouble. They misunderstand each other, or they don't know enough about each other. And Noe offers thanks and apologies this episode. I like that he does thank and apologize to him. I do like that. It's frustrating he doesn't say specifically why, but we the audience know, and it's just like, come on, Vanitas, put the pieces together. And then he says, you're a bit clueless. And then again, we get that smirk. We get that devilish smirk from him. And he's like, you thank me and you apologize to me, but he's like, don't you see, what's so interesting is the evolution of their relationship, because you have the first couple episodes, Noe was enamored by Vanitas, by the glamour of him, by the you're the legendary Vanitas. Oh my gosh, like he was enamored like everybody else. And as he's getting to know him, he's realizing there's a lot under the surface with you. Like there's something about you that's not quite normal and you're not talking about, and that maybe you're really flawed and you're not giving us all the information, right? And that's kind of tampering with Noe's initial impression of Vanitas and how he was initially like enamored with him. And Vanitas is like, I'm not somebody you should be like enamored with. But the funny thing is, Vanitas puts on such a show, and he makes himself like being like, yes, I am Vanitas and I will save you, and like puts on the big act. But underneath, I think what gets Vanitas is that Noe is able to peel back that layer, and Noe is the only one out of everybody in this show so far that is trying to dig a little and get under Vanitas' skin to figure out who he is. And Vanitas is playing everything very close to the vest, putting on this persona and act, and then suddenly it's like Noe is getting into that vulnerability, and Vanitas is like, I don't want to reveal that to you. Like, I don't want anybody to know about this. And Noe, who's like such an empath, is like, but I want to know about it. And Vanitas is like, no. So it's fascinating that Vanitas came across in the beginning like being such a troll and a trickster, being like, you were going to be my best partner, because he thought that Noe was just going to be somebody he could use and wouldn't ever dig beyond the surface, and so he could just play games with him and tricks, and Noe would back off. And Noe was initially enamored with Vanitas, and Vanitas probably thought once the veneer wore off, he'd like back off. But Noe instead is like, no, I want to know more about you. And Vanitas is like, I don't know if I want people to know more about me. So there's like, it just like that initial gloss is slowly getting peeled away, and we're getting more into like each other wanting to know under the surface about them. And Vanitas is like, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable. It's like Vanitas puts on such a show, but he, can't walk the walk. He doesn't want to give away how vulnerable he truly is. Whereas Noe shows how vulnerable he is all the time. Then we have Veronica show up. Man, Dami does not like Veronica. It is kind of insane. And she's over here, like, with the Sherigan eyes, like, looking like an arbiter off Death Parade. Like, Veronica has the crazy eyes and showing how powerful she is. I guess the more powerful you are, the more crazy your eyes are. It's like Naruto. And Dami is like, well, hello, Sister Veronica. She looks quite crazy. And so then they find Catherine, the girl there. And that's why, and we see that she's... And it's so sad because Vanitas, remember, she's the girl that he gave the rose to. And it's so sad because in this moment, it almost seems like anytime he opens up to someone, he loses them. And I think that's why he's afraid to open up to Noe, because he's like, I don't want to lose you too. Like, he's like, I don't want to open up to you and reveal too much, because then, like, he feels bad enough with this one girl dying that he knew for 5 seconds. Like, I can't imagine if he opens up to Noe and then has the chance of losing him, how he's going to feel about it. So it's so sad. Like, I hate how torn he looks here, right? That he's like, it's too late for this one. And Noe doesn't quite understand. He's like, what? There's no going back once the flesh is corrupted as this. And yeah, and she's like asking them to kill him. like asking him to kill her before she attacks her sister. And Vanitas is like, okay. And just that sequence where Noe is telling him to stop and to wait, and Vanitas is like, you don't understand. Like, he's like, I just explained it to you. We have to do this. Like, I love that Vanitas is like, I don't want to do this, but I'm partially responsible. I've got to do my part and save her. Like, it's so sad, but I'm like, Noe has this, and this kind of goes back to Noe saving Louis. Noe has in his mind that every vampire can be saved. And I think Vanitas wants to save the vampires, but there is going to come a time, and Vanitas realizes it, where saving them is making sure they don't hurt anybody else. And that's what's going to be hard, right? And Noe doesn't want to kill anyone, and Vanitas is like, sometimes you have to do this. And then he finds her name. And he says, yeah. And that animation where it like zooms in on Noe's face, that's your true name. And he says, don't. It suits you well. And then, yeah. And it just takes it away. Oh. And then Vanitas like, I told you I was doing this. It doesn't matter what you people want. I will save the vampires. So it goes back to Vanitas' whole thing where he's like, I'm going to save you on my terms. Because he's like, if I tried to save people how every vampire wanted me to save them, what would we be left with? I'd just be running around being an errand boy for all these different vampires. He's like, that's not going to happen. That's not going to save people in the end. He's like, someone has to do this objectively without emotion. And right now, that's me. And it's like, and Noe, what I like about it is Noe realized in the end, like in the moment, Noe is reminded of Louis and how the girl reminded him of Louis. But the thing of it is that the teacher did the same thing Vanitas did. The teacher did the same thing Vanitas did. It killed Louis because that's what had to happen in the moment, even though it sucked. And that's the same thing Vanitas did. So that's interesting. But Louis doesn't quite think about the teacher in the moment. Instead, he just thinks about the fact that the girl is dead just like Louis. And he kind of assumes that Vanitas is heartless in this moment when it's the exact opposite. Like just a few moments ago, Vanitas looked like he was just devastated that he had to do this. But it's what he had to do. And so I like that Noe realized when Ruthven was there and Ruthven was making assumptions. I like that Noe instantly realized, oh shit, I was doing the same thing. And that's what he apologized to Vanitas for later. That he was making assumptions the same way. And he asks, he's like, what is salvation? And Vanitas says, as if I'd know. So something has happened to Vanitas. Something has happened to him to the point where Vanitas does not know what salvation is. All we know is that Vanitas said he was seeking vengeance against Vanitas, against the Blue Moon. And this was how he was doing it, by saving the vampires. That was his vengeance. So clearly, when he gained this power, it was not a good thing. It was not a good situation. We can assume that much. We just don't know the full extent of what went down and why Vanitas feels the way that he does. So, we don't know. We don't know. He just doesn't know. But then that's when Veronica shows up. And she has like Todoroki ice powers. And she's the Queen's fangs. Yeah. So the one creature told Nania they had to get out there before the Queen found out and came over. So that's what they were referring to. Of Veronica de Sade, the Queen's fangs. Mm-hmm. And I love the ice powers. And then I love she has the mask. But then it's Ruthven that splits it. Saying that's enough, Veronica. And he basically points out how she's just flaunting her powers and that that's not a good thing. He's like, a lady of your esteem status should not be out here flaunting her powers for all to see. He's like, what if an enemy is here? What if they see what you can do and they figure out how to counter you? You know, I like Ruthven's character so far. He's rather interesting. He's Luca's uncle. Has the big red hair. Has some crazy eyes as well. The golden eyes. One of the eyes is covered up with a patch. So we're assuming there's nothing there. But I also realized that, again, we've seen Veronica and Ruthven use their power, and it has the little formula symbols by it like Vanitas's powers do. So Vanitas's power is from a vampire like all the others. It's just a blue one versus the red one. So anytime a vampire is using their power, it's going to have those little formulas, right? Kind of like what Veronica and what Ruthven do. The only difference is that the power that Vanitas wields is stronger than the others. So there's that, right? And we haven't really seen John use power. She's just used the gauntlet, right? And he asks, are you the one who killed and turned the girl to ashes? And he smiles and says, yes, it was I who slew the girl. And it's just like, he's like, yes, I did. What of it? Like as he's anticipating, he's like, yes, I did kill her. Like just putting on that face because you know it devastates him, but he's not going to show weakness in that moment to Ruthven. He's like, yes. And that's when Noe steps in. And Noe is like, I don't know who you are, but you know, I love that Noe stands up to Vanitas. He's like, I was in the middle speaking with him. He's like, look, you need to like not make assumptions about him. I'm not going to let you pin the blame on him. And that's when he thinks about the bat and thinks about the moment and realizes, I just did the same thing to him back there. He's like, I don't want Ruthven to pin the blame on Vanitas in the moment without understanding him. I was pinning the blame on him without understanding him. So I like that Noe realizes that. I love that about his character, that he's just instantly like, oh, and he realizes that about the situation. Usually a character doesn't realize that till like episodes down the road, if at all. And so I'm glad that he does. And Ruthven seems like a pretty chill guy. Seems like it. We'll see. But he seems like he's on their side. He's just making sure that Veronica doesn't do anything rash. And when he pulls, and I like that he pulls Noe to him, and he's like, don't worry, I'm going to just melt the ice. Like, I'm not going to kill your boyfriend. I'm just going to melt the ice, right? And are they boyfriends? I don't know. This is very much a acquaintances to enemies to maybe lovers story. We don't know that yet. But I love that Luca's just like, are you okay? And then him looking over to Vanitas. Looking exhausted, being like, I owe you an apology. And then what's interesting is that he has the glove on, and when the hand goes towards Vanitas, it never reaches him. It's so frustrating that it never reaches him. Instead, it reaches the teachers who has the glove on now. And the teacher with the purple being like, an apology? What are you apologizing for? And that's when Noe realizes, he's like, I made all these assumptions, and I forced my own assumptions and expectations on him when he already told me everything about himself. He's like, I shouldn't have done that. He's like, I created these ideals and expectations that couldn't be lived up to. And that's when the teacher says, he's like, I'm callow, teacher. And he says, he didn't live up to your hopes, so you couldn't stand being around him. Is that it? He's like, Mon chaton, when I told you to assess the true nature of the book of Vanitas, he says, it wasn't to reveal whether it was a threat to us. That's not the issue. And he says, and I love that he like grabs his head there and like gives him like the head pat. He says, I wish for you to meet those whose paths cross the book. So with the book, the idea was not to see if they could trust, to not see if they could trust Vanitas necessarily, but to see who Vanitas is. What is the deal? It's like, I like that the teacher says, look, the point of me having you find the book wasn't to discern whether the book is for good or evil. He's like, we can figure that out easy. I want you to know, who is it that owns the book? What are they like? You have to experience their stories. Which, again, that means that he knows the original Vanitas. I'm fully convinced he knows the original Vanitas because we understand that the book gets passed down from person to person. So my theory is that the master, the teacher, he either is or knows the original Vanitas and has passed and knows who it's been passed down to for over the last several generations. And he's been looking for someone who could understand and appreciate the blue moon to possibly be their salvation. So maybe the point is to like establish and let Noe be Vanitas' salvation, but Vanitas doesn't realize it yet, and he's a big old cinder egg, right? Maybe that's the case, and maybe my fingers are crossing that this whole death of Vanitas at Noe's hands is just maybe Noe saving Vanitas. I don't know. I'm trying not to think of this having a sad ending. Don't tell me if it does or not. Do not say. But so frustrating. Upon doing so, how shall you characterize the book on your own terms? Like, after you see the wielder, how will you describe the book? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? How do you view it? And that's when he wakes up. I will say, Noe is like the prettiest sleeper in all of anime. He like has the best sleeping face. Like, what the hell? And then he opens up the window. Now, was it Ruthven sitting with him, waiting on him to wake up? Or was it also Vanitas? Like, let's be real. I love that he sees Vanitas up there, like right before dusk, and goes up to see him. And so he asks what happened, and Vanitas is like, well, you know, the usual. There's a debriefing, they diffused the crowd, or whatever. Saved you the boringness of seeing all of that. We are now his guests. So we're now stuck at Ruthven's for the time being until we can leave. And I get the sense that Vanitas does not like being stuck anywhere. He doesn't like being anyone's prisoner. Again, connecting little things with his character as we go, right? And he says, so that was him in the room I was in. And he says, yes. Was it only him though? But yeah, and we don't see Vanitas' face. So how much is true and how much is a lie? And so then I love that Vanitas and Noe are in like different opposing colors, like the black versus the light there in the picture. And he asks what the matter is. And Vanitas is like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're mad about something. He's like, what? He's like, if not, you're pouting. He's like, don't be stupid. But he is. And I think that there's a lot of things. Like, I think that Vanitas is upset. I think that the furthest thing he's upset about is the whole thing with Dami and Noe, that he can't be with Noe. There's that. There's also the fact he had to kill the girl. I don't think he's happy about that. I think he's not happy about being a prisoner there. I think that Vanitas, like, this is the least comfortable situation. He's just come off of having to kill someone, and then he also, you know, isn't with someone he maybe cares about in Noe, and also he's stuck there as a prisoner. So I think Vanitas is just very flustered and frustrated, and he can't do anything about it. He's like, I wish you'd say something to me. I think Vanitas also likes being in control of a situation, and when he's not in control, it's not good. He doesn't react well. And he's like, well, I have something to say. He said what you're doing is an act of vengeance. And he's like, and? He's like, what did you mean by that? I want to know. Like Noe wants to know more about you. He's like, you said you were doing an act of vengeance against Vanitas. Tell me more about yourself. And in that moment, it seems like Vanitas is like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. I don't want him to know. And he's like, that was a lie. He's like, it was. Yep, that's right. I thought no vampire would pay me heed unless I said something like that. But it's a pretty flimsy lie. I think Noe is correct in saying, like, I'm not a baka. You're lying. You're lying about saying that you lied. I love that Noe, his face is so sincere, and Noe has this ability to kind of see through things sometimes. And Vanitas is like, whether you seek this or not, I will save you vampires. He's like, you weren't lying about that. It's my act of vengeance against Vanitas. Yeah. He's like, when you said that, I understood. That's why you have that look at times, as if you've given up on something. And that is what triggers Vanitas, where he's like, nope. He's like, what do you say? You don't know me. That's like what he is. But yeah, but Noe being sincere, as if Vanitas has given up on something. And because it triggers him, we know that that's probably true. Like, he has given up on something. But the question is what? Or is he triggered because he's like, no, I haven't given up. So that's the question. Like, what is he What has he given up on? What has he not given up on? But in that moment, he gets very angry. Like that, it looked like Howl's Moving Castle where his hair all like rises up. And he's like, no. And I love that Noe just stands there. But he grabbed his hand. He says, stop trying to paint me with your silly assumptions. You wet blanket. I can't deal with simple-minded fools like you. And I love the sunlight coming out as all this happens. But yeah, the truth of the matter is that Noe, he touched on something. He touched on a really fine point with Vanitas, and Vanitas was not expecting it, right? I want nothing further to do with you. So you'd better. And he says, what? I don't even know why I'm listening to you. And Vanitas is like, oh. I think Vanitas had assumed that Noe was this simple-minded vampire that was just enamored with him and just wanted to get to know him and be his life coach, and that's it. And Vanitas is like, I don't need a life coach. But that's not what it is with Noe. Noe's like, no. He's like, I want to understand you. I'm trying to know you as a person because I'm interested in you. And he's like, you've gotten the wrong idea, but I don't really like you. He's like, maybe you've gotten the wrong idea. I have no intentions of following your orders or assisting you in any way. And I like that Vanitas has changed his tune. Like, Noe is like, look, I'm not following your orders. I'm not going to be your fanboy. I don't like you, but I want to know you. And Vanitas is like, I'm saying you don't need to. Vanitas is, and which is such a funny thing because earlier Vanitas is like, he's my partner. He's joining me, and was being so trolling. But in reality, Vanitas is like, it's almost like at this point, Vanitas has realized that Noe getting involved with him, saving the vampires, is putting him in danger of Charlatan, of whatever else is there out there to face. And Vanitas is like, I want you to go away. I don't need your help. Leave me alone. And in turn, it's almost like he's wanting to send Noe away so he doesn't get hurt. He's like, that's why I'm saying you don't need to. And then the bell starts ringing, and I like that neither of them want to let go of the knife, so they just cover one of their ears. And they're arguing back and forth with one another, but neither of them can hear. And it's just so frustrating in that moment. Like, they just get all their frustrations out. And he's like, just when I thought he was angry, he starts sulking. Meaning he wasn't truly angry, he was just in the moment. How interesting. I really don't understand what he's thinking. Yeah, that's the thing. None of us understand what he's thinking. And so he's like, I thought he was mad at me, but he really wasn't. He wasn't mad. He was just like letting out his emotions, as it were. He speaks of salvation, but what does that really mean? I have to know what he's talking about. I love it. And I love that they're just standing up there. He says, I do find you intriguing, human. I love it. And Vanitas is like, what? He's like, I want to see your labors and witness their outcome. He's like, look, I'm not going to be lovey-dovey with you. I'm not going to chase you around like a puppy dog. But I'm going to be with you because I want to see what you're planning on doing. And I want to see the outcome. I want to see, are you going to save the vampires? What's that going to be like? He's like, I want to see who you are and how you do this. Like, that's what the teacher was wanting him to find out. And then he just like does the smolder, and he looks like the most handsome man alive. And you're like, wait, what? No, Vanitas, how are you gonna say no to that? And Vanitas is like, what? I just like what? I love Vanitas is like, I just like how? What do I do with this sort of thing? Like, I love that he's just the smolder completely renders him useless. And he's like, and should you refuse me, I'll do as I please, your will notwithstanding. I love that he's like, I don't care what you say. You can't control me, and I can't control you. We're just going to do as we please, right? I love that. I love that he just looks over at him. I've decided to remain by your side, Vanitas, for the time being. And I like that Vanitas is about to say something, but then he just laughs. And, oh, that face that he makes. He's like, I couldn't care less. I love that. He's like, fine, You want to be by my side? Whatever. I'm fine. Do it. And that's kind of what I love about their dynamic, right? They both want to get to know one another better. They claim they don't like each other. Okay, be that way for now. I see how you're doing this show. But then we get like the heartbreak. He says, the color of the rising sun that morning is vivid in my mind. And then he says, memories of the beginning readily evoke memories of the end. I don't like where this is going. And he's writing a letter to someone, right? We see the pen and we see him writing the letter, right? He says, memories of what slipped from my grasp. So something got away, the people I could not protect. The day I could not grab your hand. So he's writing a letter to Vanitas, right? He's writing a letter to him. So, what? Is he going to take it to his grave or something? What? Is he just writing to be writing? What? These are my regrets. That's such a tease, and I hate it. I hate it. And then Ruth been watching them, being like, okay, all right. We'll see what happens with these two. And I'm sorry. And Vanitas is like, for what? He says, nothing. I just wish to say it. Like, just like when he said thank you earlier. Oh my God. Episode is called Questions. We have questions. We have some questions answered. Lots of questions asked. I like the direction they're taking with establishing that the two of them, they're not going to be lovey-dovey against each other for now. And that they're just going to follow each other and try to figure each other out. Which, as you should get to know somebody before you decide if you truly like them or not. But I just have a feeling it's going to end so tragically and I'm going to be a big mess. But please no spoilers. Hints or clues. I really liked this episode and the last episode, and I'm really excited to see where it goes to from here, but I'm so nervous. Always nervous with the case of Vanitas. So I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I look forward to your comments down below, and I'll be back very soon with more of the case study of Vanitas. Bye.